Good evening and welcome to Fast Horses Today. We are going to be talking about the Pick 6 carryover for Friday, April 4th. And, I expect a really big pull there at Santa Anita for their carryover for the Pick 6. Now, carryover alone on a Friday would result in a big pull, but also with the announcement of Keeneland canceling their Friday and Saturday cards, I think that leaves a lot more betting opportunities for folks to move over to Santa Anita. So, we can expect a nice pick 6 pool, as well as, in the carryover days, the late pick 5 pool really ends up being nice too, because, people are just bringing money in and, results in much more bigger pools for those pick 5. So we're going to do a pick 6 ticket as well as a pick 5 ticket at Santa Anita for Friday, April 4th. All right, so the pick 6 does start in the 5th race at Santa Anita. Approximate post time is 3:08 there Pacific time, so 5:08 here Central Time Zone, and they're starting us off with a 6 furlong dirt race. These are maiden $32,000 claimers, and these are 3-year-olds. And let's face it, if they're running 3-year-olds at $32,000 already, that's just complete give up time. And these horses will get a couple chances at this level, and then maybe you'll see these horses running at Los Alamitos, in the near future. So this race, just didn't seem to be, it seemed to be very void of talent for me. So I'm just going to end up singling a horse I feel should be much better today, or much better on Friday with, the drop in class. That would be the 2-horse Unbreakable Trust for John Sadler, and Ayuso takes the call. Ayuso's ridden this horse the last couple times, gotten a chance to know him a little bit. This horse had run with much better in his life. He started off his career as a $100,000 maiden claimer over at Del Mar in the summer, ran a nice race, ended up getting beat just less than a length by Pally Kitten, and Pally Kitten ended up duplicating that win into another win after that. I remember Pally Kitten ended up getting it done. So this horse had run with some nice horses, Snowdonia, Game Warrior, just Charlie's to Blame, some nice horses in this horse's, running lines. So, I feel like this drop here to $32,000 really should make this horse much more competitive, much faster, and, should get the job done here in this race. 5-2 in the program, we'll see if we get that, but I will single the 2 Unbreakable Trust. All right, now let's move over to the 6th race of the day. 6th race being not a maiden, but a starter allowance. This is for non-winners of 3. So, some time ago, they added this condition where they were doing starter allowances for non-winners of 2, which they do that, and then they added a non-winners of 3. And, gives the connections a chance to win another race, to compete and not have to, drop horses into claiming, sooner than they would like to. So this is a mile on the grass. And, a couple horses I like here. I think one of these 2 should get it done and advance the ticket. One of the horses being Miss McWhinney for Doug O'Neill, Giovanni Franco. Now, Franco knows this horse pretty well, has, ridden her for both of her wins. This horse had come off a bit of a layoff, or quite a bit of a layoff. This horse had run back last June, and in the starter allowance level here, coming off a 2-race win streak, something went amiss. So this horse, had a vacation from June of last year up until January of this year. We've seen this horse run twice here at the Santa Anita meet, both times in sprint races on the grass at 6 furlongs on the flat grass in this same allowance, starter allowance level. She ran very evenly both times. She showed a lot of run in the latter part of both of her races. So I'm kind of wondering, maybe this horse does want to run a little longer. She does have a win at a mile, so, a mile should be no problem for her. And coming off these 2 sprints, that should set her up for a nice effort here at 3-1 here in the program. Now, I'm also going to put the 4-horse in. 4-horse being Rosalie May. Rosalie May from Michael McCarthy and Juan Hernandez. And, we'll see if Rosalie May gets it done, in this 6th race. Michael McCarthy is certainly a genius in placing his horses. Now, this horse is eligible because, she had been running with much better in her career, running in special weight races over at Churchill Downs, and over the past couple of years, running in some allowance races as well. Last time they ran this horse, they put her in for a starter allowance, which also had an optional claim to it. Because of that optional claim, they put her in for $50,000. Nobody took her. She ended up winning that race. So that fact that they put her in for the claim level makes her eligible for this one. So she fits really nice here. At 2-1, we'll put the 4-horse, Rosalie May. So that's the 2 and the 4 there in the 6th race. All right, now let's move over to the next race, which is the 7th race. The 7th race is a 2nd level allowance race, 6 furlongs on the dirt. And, this race really confused me. I just don't have a strong opinion here. There's 6 horses in the race. I'm putting 4 of them. I don't like doing that, but I just can't narrow this down because several of these horses have question marks, and it just makes me wonder, about their ability to win. I am going to put the one who is Thornhouse. Thornhouse, certainly, has a nice record, of 4 wins, 4 seconds out of 9 starts. Had run with the Calbred ranks, had also, won an open company. Couple question marks I have on Thornhouse. Most of his success has come over at Del Mar, on the dirt there at Del Mar, and not at Santa Anita. And also, this horse is coming off a pretty long layoff. We haven't seen this horse since July of last year. Now, Dean Pedersen, the trainer, can certainly get a horse ready off a layoff, but I just also wonder. We'll see. Thiago Pereira takes the call. Pereira did win with this horse before, and we'll put this horse in there, but I do feel there's question marks. I'm going to also put the 2, who was Elwood Blues for Mark Glatt. Mark Glatt claimed the horse from Bob Baffert and claimed the horse for $80,000. Now, historically, claiming horses off Bob Baffert is not usually a good thing. Bob Baffert really doesn't give a whole lot away, but this one's a little different, seeing that, Elwood Blues had been running in some nice races. It was a big purchase price of $300,000. Had run, back in 23 and 24. Long layoff. There was an article that Baffert was going to be bringing horses off layoffs, older horses, training them and getting them into races at Santa Anita. I don't know if that was at the behest of Santa Anita asking for this or the connections. I'm not sure, but this was one of them. He brought this horse in off a long layoff for the $80,000 level, non-winner of 2. Horse ran a nice race, ended up getting beat, right on the wire by See Through It. Mark Glatt saw fit to claim this horse out of that race. So this is first race off the claim. 2-1. We'll put this horse in. But again, question marks. Not sure if claiming off Baffert's good. We'll see, when the race does happen. So I will put Elwood Blues. I'm going to also put the 3 horse was Get Her Number for Peter Miller. Miller puts his horse in for the $80,000 claim. That's why he's eligible. This horse, if you look at his PPs, this horse has been running, in some of the best races in the country, with, having run in the Cigar Mile, having run in the, Pegasus Invitational back in 23. And, this horse certainly has probably seen better days, but, Miller got this horse training, got this horse going, putting this horse in here, 6-1. If this is the kind of horse that this horse would win today, I would think that, 6-1, it would play a lot higher than that. Fresu takes the call. Fresu certainly wins races. We'll put Get Her Number in here in a race that I do feel has question marks. I'm going to also put the 4 horse, who is Booksmart. Booksmart for Bob Hess, Mike Smith. These 2 guys teamed up last time to win in the first level allowance race. Booksmart, certainly a horse that, knows where the winner's circle is. He's won six races out of 17 starts. Now, Hess really has done a nice job after claiming this horse back in 2023. He's won several races with Booksmart. As I mentioned, comes off a win in the first level allowance race last time out back in early March. Ended up running in a live race, ran with Positivity and Momad. And Positivity came back to win. Momad ran well as well. So that might be a very live race. So we'll give Booksmart a shot here at 4-1. So we've got the 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, now let's go to the 8th race. 8th race is a first level California allowance race. They're running 6.5 down the hill. And this is a true allowance. It's not the optional claimer or anything like that. It's just allowance, not winner of 1. So, interesting field here. I do have a single here. I'm going to single the 2 horse, who was Lovely Idaho from Mike Pipey. She's a nice horse, lightly raced horse at 4 years old. She's run 4 times, has a win, a second, and a third. I really like this horse off her last win. She had a bit of a break herself, having run a few times back in 2024, and last time we saw her was in late August at Del Mar. And this horse had the situation of her barn was kind of disrupted last year. Mike Pipey got pinched, was suspended for a while. His assistant had the horses back in the Del Mar meet. That didn't really go all that well. Pipey's back training, that got solved some time ago, and Pipey's been doing pretty well, especially here at the Santa Anita meet. And this would be one of his nice winners. Lovely Idaho is 9-5 in the program, so certainly no secret or anything like that. But if you watch her film, her last race, she ran a really nice race. Coming off a layoff, running 6 furlongs on the flat grass. I just liked the way she ran. Her movement looked really nice. She ran so relaxed. I could see this horse doing that down the hill and just loving it on the hill. She responded when Ayuso asked her a little bit in the stretch and just drew off. So I just feel like this horse, just is pretty nice, and I think she should, be pretty well positioned here in this 6.5 down the hill. So I'm going to single Lovely Idaho at 9-5. All right, now let's go to the 9th race of the day. 9th race is a starter allowance/allowance race. This is at Northern California style race. They're running 5.5 on the dirt. And what makes this race interesting is that they put a claim condition on here to fill the race, and that brought in some of the Southern California horses. So, just kind of a, two worlds colliding here. You've got some of the Northern California horses, that fit here, as well as, you got a couple of Southern California horses. They're putting them in for 32, and we're going to see who's better. So I feel like it leaves the race a little open. I've got 3 horses in here. I feel like one of these 3 should get it done. I'm going to put the 1 who is Geezer for Hector Palma. Hector Palma's getting in this race because he is putting this horse in for 32. Now, this horse has shown a nice record on the dirt, 4 wins out of 10 starts, including a win at Santa Anita. And, this horse has run well on the dirt. I really like this horse's race on January 31st. Ended up running in a open allowance race. Ran with Positivity, who, just mentioned Positivity being a sharp horse. And I thought this horse ran a really nice race that day with a nice speed figure. I really think that it places him, right in the middle of things here. 10-1, Hector Barrios takes the call. Now, when the 2 Hectors have gotten together, they've done it nice work. So, we'll see if the 2 Hectors can get it done here. At 10-1. All right, we're going to put the 2 horse who is Wound Up. Wound Up being the favorite. Wound Up is 3-2 in the program. I'm sure we'll end up going off as a favorite. Librato Baraccio brings this horse in off a 4-race win streak. And, this might be the claim of the year in California. Baraccio claimed this horse from Jamie Thomas back in December of last year at Pleasanton, and subsequently ran through the starter allowance ranks with 3 wins. So Kyle Frey's been on the horse all 3 times. Baraccio does nice work with horses. He gets a limited amount of starters, but, certainly does nice work, as evidenced by this guy. And, we'll see. Wound Up is moving up in class. He's certainly passed every test so far this year, winning very, very nicely. And we'll see if this, jump up in class, if he's good enough here. He's certainly no secret, 3-2. We'll put Wound Up in here. That is 2 horse. Then finally, I'm going to put the 9 horse in. 9 horse being Regal Patriot for Tim McCanna. Tim McCanna puts Frank Alvarado up on the horse. Now, this horse gets in because he's putting him in for a $32,000 claim. Now, this horse has been running in Northern California, but running up against some of the nice sprinters there in Northern California and doing well with them. So the reason why this horse qualifies is because McCanna puts this in for 32. Now, I don't know if this is a matter of, trainers up north, have got to get realistic with their stock. Racing is not happening up there anymore. So, they got, their choice of coming down to Southern California, but they got to place them correctly in order to be competitive and win races. So I just kind of feel like this is an example of that, where McCanna's putting this horse in where he feels he'll be good enough. He's 7-2 in the program. As I mentioned, Frank Alvarado's on the horse. Alvarado's done a nice job with with his starters and winning races and putting some nice rides on horses over this Santa Anita meeting. So we're going to put the 1, 2, and 9 in the 9th race. All right, now let's go to the last race of the day. Last race being the 10th race. This is a first level allowance for California bred horses. These are 3-year-olds. And it's a mile on the grass, and 3-year-olds only. I think it's pretty open race. I'm going to put 4 horses in here. And, with the thought of hoping to have the live ticket and having 4 horses in coverage, and I feel, should be, a good spot to be in. I'm going to put the 1 who is no poking around for Bob Hess and Berto Rispoli. This horse by Sir Prancelot, we've talked a lot about Sir Prancelot being, a sire of young horses and precocious horses getting their maidens broken. But what I haven't seen as much of is Sir Prancelot horses, winning their 2nd race, winning their 3rd race, winning subsequent races. We've got to see more of that from this horse, this sire. We've got 2 horses in here by Sir Prancelot. I'm going to put them both in. I'm going to put the 1, no poking around. This horse certainly has done some nice work on the grass. I've done nice work at a mile on the grass as well here at Santa Anita. Nice speed figure, should be right in the thick of things at 3-1. Going to also put the 3 horse, who is Checks on the Way. Simon Callahan, Kazushi Kimura takes the call. This horse is 6-1 in the program. Now, this horse is going to be stepping up here a little bit. Broken his maiden in a maiden claimer, and then won a starter allowance race. So putting this horse into an allowance race, it's a bit of a step up in class. But since they're only 3-year-olds, 3-year-olds only in this race, I feel like that race can translate. This horse can have a shot here at 6-1. Then up at the 4 horse, who is another Sir Prancelot horse. this Andy Mathis trained horse, and Ayuso takes the call. Ayuso's got several live horses, during this pick six sequence. So we could see if Ayuso ends up with a multiple win race day. This horse is 2-1 in the program, coming off a really nice maiden win, nice speed figure. Here in the maiden races here, and end up with a nice speed figure at a mile on the grass. So Got Soul, he graduated first time going 2 turns, always a nice accomplishment and something that definitely gets my attention. So I will put Got Soul in here at 2-1, and then finally I'm going to put the 9 horse being the Shillelagh. Brian Hansen trainer, Tiago Pereira is the jock, and this horse has 4 starts on the grass, has 1 win. Has all 4 starts have. Well, I'm sorry, 3 of the starts have been at Santa Anita, 1 at Del Mar. Does have the win over at Santa Anita. This horse, just putting this horse in 8-1. These 3-year-olds that are Calbreds, restricted Calbreds, it's not always the best of horses. So, leaves things open and leaves, open the possibility of upsets. So I could see the Shillelagh, in the even races that he's run, maybe moving to 2 turns, could be a test that he wants and, that he can end up, excelling at. So we'll put the Shillelagh in at 8-1. All right, now let's recap the day and recap the tickets. Okay, so for Santa Anita, for the Pick 6 carryover day on Friday, April 4th, we've got a ticket that starts in the 5th race here. And let's get going here. The 5th race, we're going to start the Pick 6 with the single of the 2, with the 2-4, with the 1-2-3-4, with the single of the 2, with the 1-2-9, with the 1-3-4-9. Now that ticket is a $144 play for the Pick 6. And, I'm also going to play the same numbers in the Pick 5 in the 6th race. Pick 5, so that would be 2-4 with 1-2-3-4, with 2, with 1-2-9, with 1-3-4-9. And that Pick 5 ticket's a $48 ticket. So if you want to play as is, I wish you the best of luck. If you want to add or subtract, play the Pick 3s within it, play the Pick 4 within it. Whatever you decide to do, I wish you the best of luck. Let's wish the folks over at Santa Anita a very, very safe day of racing. And let's wish ourselves some good trips, because that could result in good luck and good results for us. So as always, I thank you so much for watching Fast Horses today. Thank you for hitting that subscribe button. If you haven't done so, please join in. Hit the subscribe button. It just joins into the audience. Doesn't cost you anything. Just puts you right into the feed when new content gets created. You could like, dislike, make comments. I promise to respond to everything. Good luck in the Pick 6 carryover for Friday, and we will be back on Saturday for Santa Anita Derby Day. Coverage there at Santa Anita, the great race place.